If you saw my other video on Bettini, the concert records that I played, you'll know I'm a big fan of Bettini. Gianni Bettini was an early pioneer. Now, I'm not going to go into all the history because I did that in the other video and you should check that out for sure. But just to recap, this is someone who was an early phonograph pioneer. He came to New York from Europe and he opened up a salon. What he did was he found the recording and playback of cylinders wasn't very good or up to his standards. So he designed a special reproducer that he marketed. And this reproducer had different arms and could be used with Columbia machines or Edison machines. And this is an example of one of his early reproducers. It's very sophisticated, got a counterweight to adjust the pressure on the record. It's a beautiful piece of engineering, and it says Bettini microphonograph attachment. So that's what he called it. And I'm going to do a video on more of this aspect of Bettini later. But today we're focusing on the records. So I did a video on concert records. And as I mentioned in that video, Bettini came to New York, started producing records. What he did was he was a fan of opera. And because of his station in life, he was actually able to get some of the early opera pioneers to record for him. And he started a little business where he would make copies of those original cylinders and sell them. And they were not cheap. $2 to $6 for a cylinder when a regular cylinder was about 50 cents. So I played the concert ones. These are the ones, after a few years in New York, Bettini went to Paris and opened up a salon there where he started selling his cylinders in these boxes. They're quite rare, but I have several here, and I think this one's empty, but I have at least 3 cylinders here. So we're going to play a couple and see what they sound like on this machine. Now you might be wondering, why am I using this machine? Well, I do have Bettini reproducers, but the ones I have that would play this are not in great shape. The diaphragms are a little loose on them, and as a result, they don't sound great. When they are set up properly, they sound really good. So what I'm going to play it on is my 2-minute Edison standard phonograph. This is an early one, and this is actually the first machine I ever got, so it means something special to me. And you know, it's like my workhorse. It always seems to play and record really well. So let's start with listening to one of these very rare Bettini cylinders. Well, I'm sure you noticed that one was quite noisy. There's quite a bit of light molding on it, but it's all over and it's pitted. So it's a very noisy cylinder. And to begin with, it's not like the grooves are really deep and the quality of the sound is really loud on this particular cylinder. How do we know it's a Bettini cylinder? Well, we're not 100% sure, but I've listened to the announcement several times and it is not in English and it doesn't say Columbia and it doesn't say Edison. And both Edison and Columbia, the major manufacturers of cylinders back then, they had announcements at the beginning of the cylinder and it would have said their company name. So I'm pretty confident that this is a Bettini cylinder. So let's try another one, see if we can get a bit better sound out of it. Well, I have some bad news. I tried the other Bettini cylinder and the announcer said Columbia Records. So this is actually a Columbia cylinder in a Bettini box. I do have one other cylinder that I'm going to play a little bit because I'm a little hesitant to know exactly what it is. But before Bettini went back to Paris, he was producing cylinders in the US. And those are, Bettini cylinders are rare, and these are way more rare. Here's the original box for this one. It's sort of a light blue with his graphics on it. It's a beautiful box. I have a cylinder here that was in it, and I pre-tested it, and there is an announcement that sounds a lot like the kind of announcement you would hear on an Edison or Columbia record, but it doesn't say Edison or Columbia. So that leads me to believe it could actually be a Bettini, and the person making the announcement had heard the Edison and Columbia announcements and was trying to sort of do the same sort of introduction. Unfortunately, they don't say Bettini. That would make life so much easier. But let's hear a little bit of the cylinder and see what it's about. The cylinder looks to be in good condition, so that's a benefit. So let's try it.
On the radio, sung by Mrs. Ward.
Wow, that's about all I can take of that one. You heard the announcement, but the recording, this doesn't sound, well, maybe I'm being biased, but it doesn't sound like a great singer. But I could have the speed a little wrong because in those days, sometimes they recorded a little bit faster or a little bit slower. But I'm not so impressed with the cylinder. Maybe it's a Bettini. If anybody recognizes the song or the cylinder or anything about it, leave a comment and help me out, see if we can figure out what it is. So I hope you enjoyed this view of Bettini, one of the early pioneers.